interest income also soared by double digits. Here's where the Philippines remains vulnerable to abrupt changes in U.S. policy, exchange rate fluctuations, trade, immigration, and possible foreign policy issues over the South China Sea. That is according to Nomura, which has given the country a high vulnerability rating as far as the Trump administration is concerned. The bank is penciling in 6.3% GDP growth this year, with a possibility of hitting a low 6.1% in a higher risk scenario. The country also ranked a medium over capital flight risks, rising U.S. interest rates, and Trump's planned fiscal stimulus. Still, the Philippines remains one of 4 growth leaders, with India, Indonesia, and Peru among emerging markets. Just how vulnerable is the economy to such externalities? Well, here to weigh in is MArvin Germo. He's a stock trader, author, and registered financial planner. MArvin, always good to have you. Welcome to the show once again. I know you were finding it hard to concentrate given the Miss Universe is going on, but let's look at this. Let's first look at this prognosis from Nomura. We've heard both sides of the argument, saying one side saying, look, Trump's protectionist policies is going to be negative. The other side saying that it's going to be an opportunity for the Philippines. Where do you sit on the spectrum?
Okay, to balance everything out, it's still quite early into the Trump administration. So far the things that he has been rolling out hasn't really hasn't have any direct impact to the Philippine economy. But in line with that protectionist line that he's producing, and number one, I think it may affect more of production and the electronic sector more, because that's if you look at his speeches, he really wants to bring back those kind of jobs more than the services type of jobs that we have right now. So at this point, I'm more concerned of, should the BPO industry get hit, it might just dampen growth, but it might not remove whatever's existing, whatever earnings that they're getting from the companies that are here right now. So I'll wait and see until there's something really concrete policies that have been put out. What he's saying about immigrants in the U.S. If you compare that to the Middle East, a lot of the Filipinos that are there are already PRs, they're already citizens, so they're there to stay. Unlike with the Middle East, that they can be taken out anytime possible.
Right. But having said that, have you begun to hedge for such a scenario?
Actually, at this point, I really haven't seen any concern right now. Whatever I've mentioned before about consumption, about construction, I'm still pretty much into it, because I believe whatever happens there, it won't stop Filipinos from shopping. It won't stop Filipinos from buying in the malls and going to those restaurants. As what we've seen, spending is just keeps on rising.
All right, Marvin, let's leave it there for a sec, because the local markets have started trading, and I want to just get a quick update from JP. JP, what do you have?
The excitement you're hearing at the back, Reg, is actually from the Miss Universe match that a lot of people in the newsroom are watching. It's not because the market is up by about 1/3% so far, 7,356. But again, we're talking about this range bound where it is a sort of range bound, but at a resistance level of about 7,360 at the moment. So if it does hit that, we could actually see it bounce back. Now, going back to some of these sectors also, you're going to notice that of all sectors, about 4 out of 6 are up. Mining and oil, though, still continues to be very sluggish at the moment, about 0.25% down. And when you look at some of those movers, you're going to see some sluggishness from its biggest member, its most heavily weighted member, Semirara, at about 136 pesos 40 centavos. They are down so far. Now, Semirara, of course, releasing an announcement today that with regards to this upcoming DNR audit, they said that they have not gotten a suspensions order. However, the market seems a little bit more tense at the moment. Perhaps they're just waiting for the final word, actually, from the DNR. But Semirara trading lower. But take a look at my stock. Not to brag at the moment, but Atlas Mining is getting a bit of a boost from that pickup in copper prices that we saw. But again, the real story here is really how the PSE is rising. But the question, of course, will be, and I'd like to actually pose this to Marvin today. Marvin, when you look at the PSE, we've been actually quite range bound over the last few trading sessions. 7,360 actually might be that wall or that resistance that we're seeing. Might we actually be bound by this particular range over the coming days until the first major earnings release in the coming days, Marvin?
Marvin, I think that was for you.
Okay, looking at it from a market sentiment perspective, we know that 6.5 the market hit a support level, and from 6.5 to where we are now, that's quite a significant level of earnings for a lot of investors who started to put in money at that point in time. So near 7.4, we will experience probably some profit taking. We will experience some selling for those that lost money a few years ago, a couple of months ago, that were holding onto their stocks. So at 7.4, there might be some selling. The biggest resistance that I see is around 7,447. Should we break out from that, the market could reverse and it might become bullish already over the midterm. So breakout from 7,447 could lead us to around probably 7.7 in the next few months. So I like what JP said. As we close near 7.4, there will be some selling at that point in time. The question there will be, will the buyers be strong enough every time it hits 7.4 to finally break out of that price range?
So 7,447 is the resistance level we're looking at, JP. Are you buying that answer?
Well, I mean, at the moment, it's looking like 7,360 is going to be one of the major ones over the last few days. But again, you know, I will defer to Marvin. Perhaps we're also looking at a wider range. And 7,400, it has broken that resistance also a couple of times over the last few weeks. So, you know, there is some, you know, I guess some saliency with regards to Marvin's viewpoint also with its 7,447.
All right, let's take a look at some of your other stock picks, Marvin. Ali, VLL, HLCM. You have a lot, actually. MPI, Pure Gold, SMPH, RRHI. Let's focus on 4 of them for now. Ayala Land, Visa Land, Holcim, MPIC. As you can see, we're looking at diverging fortunes for some of them. I know you like the infrastructure play. Has that not changed at all?
For one, I think it's going to even intensify. The prods to Japan and China will further increase funding there. The risk that there might be lesser funding from the US might be offset by China and Japan, which will provide the needed boost for funding. So I'm even excited for the PPP IPO because it allows companies that need more funds to produce those projects to actually happen. So what they're saying about the golden age of infrastructure here, I really believe it could happen.
And you're just as bullish despite the fact that the tax reform plan is currently being, let's say, working its way through Congress right now with some compromises.
I think what's good about that is they need to get money from somewhere. They're trying to balance out the money, the revenue that the government could actually collect. So I think they're doing a good job to balance everything out, that we don't have a large deficit. We don't want that because it might affect our credit rating over the long term.
On the other side of the fence, you have the consumer stocks, RRHI, Pure Gold. And the funny thing is that some analysts have told us that they like these stocks because of its growth potential. But then also, the other side of it is that it can be quite vulnerable to fluctuations in, let's say, shifts in U.S. policy, for instance, because it could eat into remittances.
What's nice about that, though, is I'm more concerned about things that may happen internally or the local market, changes in taxes, changes on junk food, that they would add taxes to that. What's nice about Pure Gold or RRHI is they could pass on the cost to customers. I think that's one of their biggest upsides. They could slightly put it up little by little over the next few months, over the next few years, and customers would not stop buying them because what they sell are practically needs of people on a daily basis. And we haven't seen any indication yet that inflation would go even higher. The BSP would peg it at 4, but at 4, it's not even alarming at that point in time. So as long as inflation is manageable, as long as Filipinos have money to spend, I'm still all for this consumption stocks.
You don't think that might rein in the spending, given that on the one hand, the Finance Department is also looking to jack up excise taxes on fuel?
Well, fuel, that's one of the risks that I'm looking at as well. Fuel plus the dollar being relatively higher. So higher dollar, we buy our fuel abroad. That could affect it. But again, I'll have to look at inflation. If inflationary numbers come up, it will, at the end of the day, it will have to be up to those businesses should they raise their prices and eventually impact the bottom line of everything. So as of this point, there's nothing to be alarmed of. A lot of those companies will still earn in line of spending of a lot of the consumers here.
Marvin, quickly, just from down here also, we do know that earnings season is around the corner, and we just heard a release from Union Bank for their 2016 full figures. What particular sectors or specific company releases are you looking out for or keeping a close eye on as we approach this season?
Okay, I like what you disclosed about Union Bank, which was I guess a good precursor to what we will see from a lot of the banks that we have, because at the end of the day, interest rates are still cheap. Business confidence is very high. That combination will allow more people to actually borrow money and expand their businesses. That will cause more people to actually still buy houses, buy condominiums, and buy cars. I think even though they may raise taxes on cars, it won't stop people from buying, because every Filipino still likes to upgrade their lifestyle at the end of the day. So I think that's something that would be also insulated unless we see any drastic movements in the interest rate over the next few months. So if there's no movement, I think we're supposed to be okay.
Lastly, Marvin, are foreign fund outflows still going to be a problem, do you think? I mean, tighter policy in the U.S. will, of course, mean money will flow out of emerging markets like the Philippines.
Well, for markets to move up, it has to be a combination of local buying and foreign buying. So I think when earnings come out, it has to be game-changing results, things that will keep investors interested in our market. Because if it's just normal, like our GDP, everyone was expecting 6.6 for fourth quarter, 6.8 for the year. So what happened? Markets did not rally as much. So you want something that will make a lot of foreigners
Blockbuster
interested
numbers.
that, hey, there's a lot of uncertainty, but I want to come in here because there's something that will give me growth over the long term. So if there's results that are amazing, I think foreigners will come back.
So foreign funds waiting to see on earnings season results as well. Any blockbuster numbers you're predicting at this stage? Are you hoping to see at least at this stage?
I like to see bigger growths also in the financial sector. Union Bank was a good example. I think the consumption, a lot of consumption stocks at this point in time may have dampened earnings. But if you're an investor and you're looking at it from a longer period of time, you should be okay. But you could expect lesser earnings, I think, this season for them.
So hoping for more upside in the financial sector.
Yeah.
All right, really have to leave it there. MArvin Germo, thanks very much for your time today. He's a registered financial planner and author. We'll have more in the markets when we return. Plus, Google Philippines moves to a bigger headquarters as it plans to recruit more Filipinos.